Hey y'all, I am here in the United Arab Emirates, and this is the city of Dubai. It's very exciting. So I got here on Emirates Airways or Airlines. You know, I don't even know if it has an N. There's more to their name besides just Emirates. It could just be called Emirates. I don't know if it doesn't have to follow Southwest Airlines or Delta Airlines. Maybe it doesn't have the rest of it. I don't really know. So it was an interesting flight. I wanted to talk to you about it in case you're interested in flying Emirates. I flew economy. I flew for free because I had a bunch of points on my Capital One travel. And so I used Capital One rewards for the flight. And yeah, it was my first time flying on Emirates, and I thought it was pretty nice. I thought it was awesome, actually. It had its hiccups, and it also had some kind of, exciting, pretty nice things with it too. So I just wanted to chat with you about it. So the flight, it was supposed to go from where I was in San Antonio, Texas, to Chicago. Chicago's like a main hub for Emirates. And then from Chicago, it was going to go to Dubai. But there was like weather in Chicago, so they changed it. Or they gave me the option to change it, and I thought I probably should. So instead, it was going to go from San Antonio to Houston, and then from Houston to Dubai. And I don't know how I felt about that. I liked the Chicago one better because I knew it would give me like 2 hours to go to the lounge and eat, because I really don't feel like I should be paying for food on a travel day. So instead, I was there, really early at the airport. Because I thought that the flight to Chicago was gonna board right away, but instead, the one to Houston was like an extra 6 hours in the future, and there are no lounges that I have access to in San Antonio Airport. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just wait. So I just sort of waited and got hungrier and hungrier. And eventually we boarded that flight to Houston, and the whole time, it was just a United flight, a little United flight. The whole time I was worried on the flight that I might miss the connecting to Dubai. I had asked to be put on standby for an earlier flight to Houston, but those just filled right up, and even though I was number one on the list of standby, I wasn't able to get in. So I was kind of stressing already. So I took that late flight to Houston, and, I'm watching the monitor, and it says that we're going to land at at 6:55 or something. But I knew that my flight to Dubai was going to depart at 7:55. And usually it's they'll start boarding an hour before those international flights. So I knew as soon as this one landed, I would have to run to whichever gate it was, because as soon as it landed, my flight to Dubai would be boarding. So I was freaking out a little bit. So I did run when we landed, and the Houston airport's terrible. I couldn't find any monitors that showed what gate it was. And it wasn't updating on the United app because it was with Emirates Airlines. So I just didn't know where I was supposed to go, and I was running around, finally found the gate. And they were calling me, because I'm not a resident here of the UAE, they wanted to see my passport, so I could hear them yelling my name on the monitors, and it was freaking me out on the intercom. So I finally made it to my gate, and they said, oh, we just need to see your passport. And they said, you have a little time, this flight's delayed. So I was like, what? So I'm in Houston, and I was glad that there was that delay. I was able to get to the Centurion Lounge, and they hide that Centurion Lounge. I've gotten super confused before, but I did find it, and then they put me on a wait list as always. And eventually I got in, and I had about 8 minutes to enjoy that flight. So I went and I just shoveled this food in my mouth. And I was like, oh, because it had been 27 hours since I had last eaten. Because I was really expecting to have eaten in Chicago, many hours earlier. And I'm not paying for food. So I was glad I was able to eat, but I was really stressed. And I was running around the airport. I hadn't realized how sore my legs were until I sat there, and I don't even think I sat at the lounge. I was just like shaking with adrenaline. I was standing up eating, practically over a trash can. But I got some food, and so that was good, and went over back to the gate, and then finally got in. It was hectic, but this is the life of a world traveler. It's always going to be hectic. So then I got on the plane, and when I was talking to them and I showed them my passport, they were really nice about it. I told them I was really frustrated because of the flight change. I was supposed to go to Chicago and I hadn't eaten, and they said, well, we're going to put you in a nice little row next to the kitchen so that you can be one of the first to be fed. I thought that was so nice. Because usually what happens is I'm in the very back or in the very front, and then they come with that little trolley and they feed everyone else, and then by the time they get to me, they're all out of, chicken. So I was glad I was in a nice place, and they said they would also give me a whole row to myself. Well, all 3 seats in that little area, not the whole row because it's a huge plane. I was so grateful for that. So I did. I boarded the plane. It was really nice. I did have all 3 seats in my little mini row all to myself. That was perfect. I couldn't have asked for better. And as soon as I sat down, I told the flight attendant, I said, when's food time? When's food time? I said, I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten. Even though I did eat in the Centurion Lounge, it was only a few minutes before. And I think it takes 20 minutes for your stomach to report to your brain that you've eaten. So it still hadn't even been 20 minutes since then. That's how quickly this turnaround was. And she was like, oh, you poor thing. And she went and brought me a banana and some crackers and a little mini Pepsi. She said she got them from the crew quarters, that they weren't really for the, guests, but she could tell I was really hungry. And I was like, I said, that's so nice, and they were really nice about those sorts of things. So once we were settled, we got in the sky, we flew around, it was really great.
What are you having today?
I'm on Emirates. I'm having a tiny Pepsi and a Chobani.
Flight with Emirates?
I love it. And then the staff is wonderful, and the whole flight is, I feel like I'm in first class.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Shukran.
The flight attendants came around with a camera, like a Polaroid, and took a picture of everyone who wanted one and gave you a little memento. I thought that was really nice. And, then it was food time. Oh, finally. So there was a little menu, and I felt like I was in first class. I really did, because I had that huge row, and I slept. I laid out on the whole row with my blanket. I thought they were going to yell at me, but no one did. And so for my first meal, I had, it was like a dinner, but dinner wasn't until almost 10:30, 11 p.m. That's, but that was in Texas time. I didn't even know what time it was anymore in the sky at that point. Kind of a late dinner, but I was glad to have eaten. And then, they made it really nice. I thought the food was really good. And they would give you a little wine, like that. I don't drink, but I like to smell it and just at least order it and have it. So, it was very first classy, I thought. And they even brought me champagne and a little Jack Daniels thing. I kept it. I brought it on the flight. Maybe I can put it in the guest room at home. And so they gave me food, lots of food, and then after that there was supposed to be a snack, but they didn't do the snack. It was just sort of like nighttime, and So I went to bed and I saw that they were telling people to close some of the windows, and I could see it was already like sunny outside because of the time change, but it was nighttime, so I didn't even know. So I'm glad they did that. Otherwise, I would have been too confused. So I went to bed and I stretched out on all three of my seats with my blanket, and just I slept pretty well. I think I slept about 4 hours, maybe 3.5, but I woke up feeling okay. Then they gave the snack, which I thought the snack would have been later, but the flight was delayed. At least they brought the snack. So the snack was a little pizza, but it was kind of like morning, like early morning, so I don't even know anymore. So it was like a little margarita pizza, and it came in a little box, and I ate it. Then they had a brunch later, and the brunch was like a cheese omelet with some fruit, and they gave jam, but they gave like this roll, and I can't really put jam on a roll, so I didn't eat that. It would have been nice if there was toast or something, but whatever. It was still a good breakfast, and the coffee was really good. I enjoyed my coffee on the flight, and I was just having a good time. I was watching movies. They had some movies that like you can't really see in Texas. I saw The Apprentice. I hadn't seen that movie. I wanted to see it, the Donald Trump movie. I thought it was really good, very, very good. And then there was another movie that was similar to it, Megalopolis, which was also about empire building. Megalopolis is, I think Francis Ford Coppola doesn't want that streaming anywhere permanently or something, but it was on the flight internationally, and I'd wanted to see it for a while. I'd heard it had bad reviews, and you know what? Honestly, I just thought it was so bad I couldn't even finish the first 10 minutes of it. It was just stupid. So I didn't finish watching that, but I watched a little Absolutely Fabulous, the one where they fly to France. It's one of my favorite episodes because they have all these little drinks that they get, and then they're on the plane, and it just it reminds me of travel and seeing the world and that sort of thing. And if I asked for water or coffee or anything, they were always really helpful. I thought the customer service was excellent. The flight was uneventful. The captain was like French. He said he's from France or something, and he didn't bother anyone really. Just said a few words at the beginning and then a few words at the end, and the flight was, if there was turbulence, I don't know, you just couldn't feel it. It wasn't like some tin can like Frontier Airlines that I usually go on. It was a big airplane. It was probably one of the biggest I've ever been on. It was a Boeing 777 or something like that. It was a very nice flight. It was like 15 hours on that leg, so it was very, very long. But it didn't bother me. I'm used to long flights, and and then I landed at the airport. And the airport, Dubai, it was really sleek and really cool, and I went right through customs. They didn't. Nothing. It was very uneventful. You just walk right in almost, and then I was, at the metro station and ready to come to this amazing hotel. So, yeah, it was a great flight, and I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend flying on Emirates. I think that flying in economy on Emirates, if you do it just right, like the duck, if you get it free, if you get all three seats to yourself by the window, and if you have order fun drinks and stuff like that, it can feel exactly like first class. And it was just so beautiful, the airplane. Even they had like little mini wood paneling everywhere. Just the attention to detail. It felt very classy, and it was just an amazing trip. So I really enjoyed it and highly recommend flying on Emirates Airlines or Airways or whatever it's called.